Hello all, Matt Davis here, giving you some help on a review question from the Chapter 4 review quiz. So let's have a look at it together. Consider the data set below to be a random sample. Use technology to compute the value of b0 in the regression equation y hat equals b0 plus b1x, and round in such a way that predictions made with this equation would be reliable to at least one decimal place. All right, giving help but not answers, so we're going to adjust the problem a little bit. I'm going to throw out these two values and just do the work with that column missing. So we'll go ahead and get to work on this. When you're trying to use technology to compute the value of b0, that implies that what you're going to want to do is choose linear regression for a plus bx, where your data is in L1, comma L2. So that's what we want to compute, and we're going to put those x's in L1, the y values in L2. So that's what we want, and then from there we'll be able to get our B0 and our B1. They're only asking us for B1 here, but I believe you probably have problems doing the B0 as well, so we'll talk about both of them in this video and just get them both taken care of. So let's go to the calculator and enter those x and y values. So clear out anything we've got there, go to the stat key. We want to edit, so we're going to enter in new values. I got some old stuff here, so I'll highlight the list name, press clear and down arrow to get rid of those, clear and down arrow, and type in my new x values. So I have a -2, 0, 2, 5, 7, and 10. So one of the things you want to be really careful with is if you're entering negative values in, make sure you use the negative key, which is below the 3, instead of the negative sign, or instead of the subtraction sign, which is next to the 6. So to put negative numbers, use that negative key below the 3. So I hit that negative and then a 2 to get the -2 there. All right, so there's my x's into L1. Now I'll enter the y values into L2. So we have 14, 16, 22, 29, 36, and 42. All right, so I've got all those entered in, and now I want to do stat, middle column, calculations. We want the a plus bx format because the way they're asking for us to give the equation has the x term second, so that's 9 instead of 5. So I'm going to choose linear regression a plus bx, and then my data is in list 1, comma, list 2, using the second key to get to those lists. So I press enter there, and I get the a, which is not with the x, so that's the y-intercept, which we would call b0 in our class. And then the b, which is with the x, so that would be our slope. And that would be the b1 in this class. So, all right, so let's bring that number over with all of its digits at first, and then we'll talk about how many do you actually need. So for the B1, we had 2.467105. Let's see how far that went. 105263. So there's every digit. You could put all of that into the box for your B1 answer, and that would be fine. You can only get marked wrong for having too few digits here, not too many. So when they say at least one, that's what really gets most people, is they're thinking that means that they only need one decimal place, so they put 2.5, and that's going to get marked wrong. What you have to think about is what does our biggest y value look like if it has one decimal place on it? So that might be something like 42.7 or 42.3, something like that, if we took our biggest y value and wrote it with one extra decimal place. So then you think, how many significant figures is that? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So in order to have a slope in your equation that can get us 3 significant figures on our on our predictions, we need at least 4 significant figures in our B1. So 2.467 has 3 decimal places on it, but you need those to get 1 decimal place in your prediction. Because again, for slope, it's about significant figures or digits. And a number like 42 written with 1 decimal place has 3 significant figures or 3 digits. And that means that you need at least 1 more than that when you enter your slope here. For B0, which they didn't ask for here, but they do ask for in other problems, it's similar, but you just need 1 decimal place more than in your prediction. So if we look at these have 1 decimal place in them, so we would need at least 2 decimal places in our B0. So if we look back, B0, which was the A, 17.45 would be good enough. You need at least 1 decimal place more than the original, so we could just put 17.45. So that's what I'll put here. Whoops. Didn't need that. So 17.45 would be the B0 if they're asking about that. Again, there's 1 decimal place given here, so you need at least 2 in your B0. There's 3 significant figures here, so you need at least 4 significant figures in your B1. And by the way, if they asked you to assemble this into an equation, you'd put a hat on the y. You did round those numbers, so you'd put y hat is approximately equal to. You would write the B0 value first, and then plus or minus, depending on whether B1 is positive or negative. So this would be a plus 2.467, and then that's the slope, so that one gets times x. So here's your full equation. All they asked us for here was B1, so that's what we entered into the box. But you see the B0, you see the equation. Again, the B1 is the one that gets people because they hear that at least 1 decimal place and then they try and write just 2.5. But if you want to get 1 decimal place in your predictions, which is what they're asking you to do, you need to make sure that you put more significant figures on your slope than you had in a typical prediction. Typical prediction over here, 3 significant figures, so we used 4. All right, I hope that helps, and keep in mind if you're not sure about how many decimals to put on the slope or the intercept, just put more than you think you need, because you can get marked wrong for having too few. You will not get marked wrong for having too many. So to steal a line from one of my students in class today, when in doubt, write it all out. All right, so I hope that helps you out. Good luck as you go back to the quiz.